Hey there, Chloe. Hey there, Ida. I was originally going to do a punishment video for missing my last video by spreading peanut butter all over my face and recording a video about the Enneagram test with the peanut butter all over my face. However, it is way too hot in this room for me to be able to spread peanut butter on my face without it instantly melting. It is like more than 80 degrees in this room. I'm not sure how hot it is actually, but it's damn hot. So, instead, I have opted to put the peanut butter on my face in a much more circuitous fashion. I hope you enjoy. Also, I don't think I want to talk about the Enneagram test today. I think instead I want to talk about some feelings regarding some things that Chloe and I talked about last night. So it was about 3 a.m. last night. Chloe and I had been on the phone for about 4 hours, and we started getting to talk about the Grim Reaper, because in League of Legends there's a character named Jin, and Jin is based around the number 4, and the number 4 in Japanese the word for it is she, which also means death. So we started talking about death, and we started talking about personifications of death, specifically the Grim Reaper. In Neil Gaiman's comic Sandman, or The Sandman, I forget what she really cares, it's one word, he defines death, or rather personifies death, as not a scythe-wielding robed figure, but a cute, perky goth girl. And rather than just meeting death at the end of life, you meet death at the beginning of life when she breathes life into you, and then she takes that life back once you die. This is interesting because it means that you are brought out of non-existence by death, and you are returned to non-existence by death. This is kind of interesting to me because I consider how many people, how many potential people there are, which is basically infinity, all the possible configurations of person that could ever be, greatly outweigh the number that actually are. The people that exist are far fewer in number than those who could potentially exist, or could have potentially existed in the grand history of time. I look at this and I think about something that Chloe and I have talked about when she was first entering her physics class, which is entropy, which is the natural tendency of matter to approach equilibrium. It's kind of worrying because some people, particularly nihilists, believe that the universe is constantly approaching a heat death, where all energy that could mix up matter and start new universes and stars and shit will be expended, and the universe will linger in cold silence while matter has no energy to recoalesce into nebulas, stars, planets, or anything else that could potentially one day give life. I guess I have this lingering question of whether or not death or non-existence is really the natural state. If the universe kind of exists in error, and everything exists because of accident and not really with any purpose or intention, which a lot of philosophers would have a field day with that one. However, the bright side and the real higher thinker in me looks at that question, is death or non-existence the natural state, and asks the following question, so what if it is? If it's the natural state, it really doesn't matter because existence and life is the state that it's fucking in. So who cares what the natural state is? It's very unexciting anti-nihilism to say that whether the universe was birthed with a purpose or made on purpose or made intentionally doesn't really matter if you can make your own intention and ascribe yourself to it on your own. It's definitely one of those so brave philosophies that feels like you're saying something really profound when you first think it, because it is really comforting when you first think it, that you don't have to rely on an outside source to give the universe meaning. But once you've heard it a million times, it kind of loses its novelty and just becomes something that you say because, yeah, it's factually correct. Just more interesting than all of this, however, going back to the Neil Gaiman the Sandman thing and the perky goth death, that personification of death is interesting because at the same time that she gives life and then takes it away and returns things to a natural state of non-existence, she still exists as a transcendental entity. I'm then reminded of a Twilight Zone episode, a particularly peaceful and lovely one, wherein an old woman has reclused herself inside her house because of her fear of death. Eventually, a Robert Redford gets shot outside her house, and she has to tend to his wounds. She eventually finds out that he is dead, and that he kind of put on a whole big show to show her specifically that death is not something to be afraid of. It can be nice and warm and welcoming and relaxing and tranquil, not scary, lonely, cold, terrifying, all those things that I personally ascribe to death because I don't want to die. But one does not necessarily need to ascribe to death if it's their time or there's a good purpose to it, although I scarcely believe in a good purpose for death. I guess what I'm saying is the intention of Death's personification is interesting in the story, because when Death wants something, he usually gets it, and it's usually relating to its domain, and its domain is usually of great philosophical importance to the people that suffer it. I remember once Ida posted, I think, her first video, there was a clock ticking in the background, and there was a clock ticking in the room I was in at the same time. And I actually paused and unpaused the video until the clocks were synced up, closed my eyes, and pretended that I was in the room with her. This is kind of a crazy person thing to do, but I missed my friend because she's in Norway right now and I'm in America. I had some pretty hefty thoughts about whether or not this perception actually affected reality. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but it is interesting that my perception can overcome such a barrier, even if it's only insofar as my own experience. I don't know if it's clear, but this is actually related to the death thing, because in the Twilight Zone episode, where the old woman is confronted by the Robert Redford who comes to reap her soul, does Robert Redford exist factually, objectively, or is it a fabrication of the old woman's mind? Is it her subconscious desire to die peacefully, knowing that she will one day inevitably die? It's interesting because it's like a near-death experience being almost undeniably spiritual feeling. Even the most ardent atheist will feel a spiritual connection to their near-death experience. It's a matter of chemistry. And just as equally as I cannot say whether or not my toying with my own perception affects reality, I cannot say that somebody conjuring an image of death to confront actually affects whether or not they will or will not die. I can say to the person that is experiencing that it makes no difference to them whether or not it affects reality. Their perception is their reality as far as they're concerned. I'm not saying that makes it more valid or real. I'm just saying that there's no way I'm ever going to argue with that person that they weren't confronting death. Because in a way they were confronting death, they were confronting their own death. There was no objective, transcendental, spiritual representation of death that came down from the heavens to talk to them, but there was their death, and they had to talk to it. And they did. And whether or not that happened is not up to me. I cannot quantify or falsify or disprove that. But neither do I have to treat it as real. I just want to put both of those thoughts out there to make sure that the people who are hyper-secular and the people who are just a little bit spiritual are both satisfied, because I don't want to say that anybody confronting their own death is a wrong or dumb thing to do. Like, people's minds going to strange and amazing places when they're stressed out is a fascinating scenario, and I wouldn't want someone to deny themselves that experience or back down from that experience thinking that it's stupid. Because how often have I motivated myself by confronting myself? Myself as if I were a different person. But I'm not a different person. I'm just me talking to myself like a crazy person. However, talking to myself like a crazy person can get stuff done sometimes. So I imagine that if someone has to talk to their death, has to talk to their mortality in order to accomplish something or feel good about something, if it makes them accomplish something or feel good about something, I don't want to stop them. I don't know how long I'm in, but this jar of peanut butter is actually starting to hurt. I have amazing cheekbones, or I guess just like, I got really good bone structure, and it's pressing into them. It's pressing into the bones. So I'm just gonna, oh, 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 ah, ow, ow, oh God, oh jeez. Oh, I'm gonna wash my hair so much after this. Oh my God, this was such a bad idea. I so could have seen this coming. Okay, so I ended up having to get rid of that last part exactly how you think I had to get rid of it. Still, it was rather fun, and I think it made for some good video. So, thank you for watching. Anybody who watched, Chloe and Nita, I will see you later. I recall Chloe also had a missed video, so I think her punishment's going to be atrocious. It's going to be horrible. Chloe, I cannot wait. See y'all later.